Hello, it's Dicebreaker here. We are in PAX West's
We are.
first look area in the tabletop section. This isn't quite the first look at this game because it's been out for a little bit, but it's not available in the US at
True.
all.
No.
So, for those of you who are not aware of what this is Bad Bones by David Flies, and it is a lovely little game about tower defense.
It is. To be honest, when we first sat down to this, I was like, a tower defense board game. I don't want it. But to be honest, it's quite a lot of fun. It's a game that's kind of, it is competitive, but it's mostly PvE rather than PvP.
Yeah.
So there are ways you can mess with other players, which we'll explain in a minute. But generally speaking, you're just trying to keep your own stuff afloat, because the idea is you've got a hero in the middle, and you've got a tower made of different segments. You've got a line of buildings, which are obviously, like, it's a village. It's important to keep that alive, especially since a lot of them have pigs in them, and pigs are adorable.
And a donkey.
And
multiple donkeys in my case.
And you also have some traps. Traps you can place on the board, and they have different effects. Like a wall will turn a skeleton, a catapult will fling them onto someone else's board, for example. But the skeletons all come out of this sort of baggie here, and each one has a direction and a colour, and you put it appropriately alongside the board.
On like a little bingo tile board,
Yeah, it is
isn't
actually. It's kind of like you just sort out where they're going to come in from, and they just sort of start marching their way in. And because of the vagaries of the board and the arrows and stuff, they'll either eventually end up attacking the tower or burning down one of the buildings in your village. So obviously, it's your job to stop that from happening. In a series, basically each turn is 4 different phases, and it's ridiculously fast.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell them about it?
Okay, so essentially this is how the game works. There's 4 different phases for each round, and everyone is going to be doing each phase simultaneously. So the first one is you just move your hero. So this small pink boy is our glorious hero dressed in barbarian's garb. And essentially he's just going to move 1 space. He can go diagonal or upright, left and down, or orthogonal, if you prefer. He can just go into any space, and then if he touches a skeleton, they immediately perish.
Yeah, he's pretty badass.
Then we all have a chance to either pick up or place down one of our traps. So, as Johnny said, we've got our walls, which will turn people in the wrong direction, essentially. We've got the catapult, which will fling them into somebody else's board, which is very fun. We've got the treasure, which is very alluring, but if it gets touched, then it's taken away forever. And then we've also got the dragon, who will turn them in the opposite direction of a upright, left, or down of your choice. So they will flee from the dragon. So any of these traps has, apart from the treasure, 2 lives. So if it gets hit in one phase, it becomes broken. So if it gets used again, it will be removed from the game. And that's some of the points that you'll score by keeping them on the board.
That's right, yeah.
So after that, we then all move every bit of the skeleton pile that we've formed for ourselves. Here's a visual representation of what your board will look like after about 3 turns. It's pretty harrowing.
It really is.
So essentially, they will all just move in the direction that they're facing, and if they hit a line that will bend them off into another direction, which is printed on the board, they will face that direction instead. If they hit your tower or hit the bottom row and then go off the board, you lose points, essentially.
Yeah.
If you lose all of your tower or all of your village, you're out.
Yeah.
And then right at the end, the last phase is you each just place 3 new skeletons on the board.
And if, to be honest, people have been really vindictive with their catapults and they've started putting a lot more skeletons on your board, suddenly you can have an absolutely enormous influx of skeletons. And that's, I think, one of the most interesting things about this game, because we were playing it with somebody we'd not really met before. And in the early game, we were, I think it's safe to say, playing it safe, being like, oh, I'll give one to Wheels, Larks, because we're friends and we don't want to seem like we're picking on a very nice lady who offered to play
very
with us.
lovely lady named Anastasia, who was very nice to play with us. But yeah, there was a weird sort of, because it's fun to be mean to your friends.
Yeah.
But also there was a point in the game where we felt you were kind of incentivized to pick on the weakest link to almost finish the game off.
Big time. So it got to a point where we were still doing all right. Like, my tower was completely intact. I'd lost only 1 building. I think you were in a pretty similar situation. And suddenly we turned on poor Anastasia. We were like, there's blood in the water. We need to start flinging skeletons her way and trying to overload her. So there's this sort of tense element where you're scrabbling to keep your own stuff like in good supply and nice and healthy and not lose too much of anything, and plan out your hero moves ahead based on the skeletons you can kind of see coming in from the fringes. But you're also just watching somebody else being like, I hope you biff this. I really hope you die this turn or next, because then I'll definitely win. Because the game ends as soon as one person is eliminated, and everyone else tots up their scores based on what's remaining on the board. So it's 4 points for a segment of tower. Each of the traps has a points number printed on it, which varies depending on whether or not it's been damaged, and then the buildings in the village are all worth 3 points. So there's a real... I think that's one of the things I really liked about this when it was getting really tough. It's like, oh no, like not only am I having to work quite hard and think quite carefully to stop this from completely overwhelming me, but I know I'm probably going to have to sacrifice some points by just leaving a trap there rather than calling it back and healing it. And it's just knowing when to make that sacrifice.
You have to be really preemptive with your traps as well, because you can't place them on a space that already contains an enemy.
Yes.
So by the time that you've realized that they're about to destroy your tower, they're all on the adjacent tiles. So you physically can't wedge a trap in between them and the tower. So you have to be really preemptive of when they're actually going to be in the worst situation, and when you can stop that. But you only get that one trap placement around, and if you take a trap off the board instead to repair it, then you lose your trap placement. So it's like there's just a constant state of horrible panic.
Well, that's the thing.
This
game's got 4 phases, but it's only really in the first 2 that you're actually doing anything yourself that impacts on the game.
Yeah.
And that's one of the interesting things I think about Bad Bones, because it's blisteringly fast, and a lot of it is just down to chance, based on what skeletons you draw or which ones get flung into your little cemetery tile by your opponents. But I think it is the fact that you're just waiting for other people to screw up, and the game is just so blisteringly fast. I don't really mind that so much of it is random. It's a game, I think, with a fairly decent amount of replayability. I wouldn't want to play more than one game in a row, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think it pegs itself as a very competitive...
No.
Like, it's not something you'd have a competition in, as far as I'm aware.
No.
But it's... it also has this weird... Because we played the competitive mode, it also comes with a co-op mode and a solo mode.
Yeah.
And we only played the starter rules. I think it adds some more elements in, which might actually turn some of the luck elements off.
I think
might be something to look at if we do end up grabbing a copy.
But
there was this really interesting thing where, even though it was competitive and we were all against each other and we were all willing each other to lose, there was also this shared camaraderie of, oh, I'm screwed. You're screwed. No, I'm screwed as well. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's, as in so many things in life, it was the murderous skeletons that really brought us together.
Yeah. It was the shared suffering.
Exactly. But it's as with any good film that contains the undead will teach you, it's humans who are your real enemy. So hell really is other people. But all in all, Bad Bones, quite like it really. Although the art style is the board is very excuse me, tower. The board is a very snowy landscape, and the other side has space for 4 towers, by the way. So the cooperative mode is crowded, but also
I don't know how well it'll show up on the camera because we've got a light shining.
Well,
on
we
it.
can shoot
There's
some
a bit of snow texture, but it's about it.
Yeah.
And it's a sort of... It's a bit too stark and barren for such a silly game as well, and I think it really does embrace the silliness of the concept.
Yeah.
And yet the art style doesn't really go to the same lengths.
No.
It's a grey wall and a very standard-looking catapult. It's not like a skeleton stupidly hanging out of the bowl of the catapult about to be flung. Or there's no bits of charm that were added in.
And I know thematically, this is an area ringed by a forest. So you're in a forest clearing, basically, and there are no buildings here because the village is off the board. But that's not to say the board has to be quite so stark.
Yeah, there can still be, little elements of... Because, you could easily have made this a grassy field or something.
Exactly.
And have lovely bits of flowers and fallen skeletons on the ground, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it wouldn't have taken much more, I don't think. But
I don't think so, no. But
all in all,
fair,
quite positive, to be honest. I like you, Bad Bones. It sounds like a knockoff Taylor Swift song, but even that's okay, I like skeletons. They're so mischievous. They're little scamps, So even when they're coming to tear down your buildings and knock down your tower, you can't help but love them. You're like, oh, skeletons.
Yeah, there is just all of the skeletons have these really big boots on, and they're not wearing any more clothes apart from these very large boots. And I'm very much into that aesthetic.
Yeah.
But it's a really sweet game. It has this really weird introduction in the rulebook as well, where it sort of explains the lore. That's very.
Oh.
It's I don't know if it's like written in a second language or something like that, but it was very difficult to follow, and
Yeah.
I wasn't entirely sure what was happening.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I just realised that when I started talking about the art style, I could have said if I had one bone to pick with this game. That's a wasted opportunity. Anyway, this has been Bad Bones at PAX West. We are going to be making lots more video. Some of it's already out there. We played Werewolf Live with Outside Xbox and Outside Extra, and it was quite chaotic,
Yes.
but quite fun. And we didn't realise until after the panel that the creator of Werewolf was watching. So, whoopsie. But anyway, if you want to watch that or any of the other videos we've lovingly made just for you, then some of them should be popping up on screen about now. So give one of those a click. Do like, subscribe, ring the bell icon or clunk the can to make sure you get notifications when we upload.
Yeah, smash that like button and let's get some more Jean-Paul Sartre references in our videos.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Goodbye forever.